Good day, everybody. Frank DeFalco here from NGen. Welcome to our presentation on dual use in the defense. And I want to introduce Jayson Myers, NGen CEO, and take it away, Jayson. You need to unmute, Jay.
Very 2020 of me. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Merci toutes et tous pour nous joindre ici. Aujourd'hui, as we're looking forward at defense industrial strategy, Canada's strategy, I think there are a number of things that we really need to take into consideration here. And I'm joined today by some experts from one company that is extremely involved in the development of fantastic advanced manufacturing technology, but also one that can, of course, be purposed for defense purposes, as well as from and so Harpal and Chris and Nancy, welcome to our webinar, and thanks for joining us. And I'm also joined by Stuart Kramer, who is our Chief Product Officer at NGen, and has been working on a series of webinars focusing on security issues, what it takes to sell into the defense market. So you'll hear from Stuart a little bit later. But I wanted to first of all talk to you about Canada's defense industrial strategy. Still a work that is underway. Here we're promised that we'll see it early in the new year. It's extremely important as Canada, of course, struggles to meet its commitment to increase defense spending by up to 5% by 2035. I think, though, that of course it's going to provide all sorts of opportunities for Canadian companies in the defense sector, in the technology sector, advanced technology sector, as well as in manufacturing here. Just as this strategy is being put together, one of the reasons why it's taking some time to develop is that the strategy involves three major departments in the federal government. Of course, the Department of National Defense, for defining defense requirements, ISED, looking at business development, industrial development, technology and innovation with respect to defense, and then Public Services and Procurement Canada that needs to oversee the procurement process itself, and how the relationships work out across these departments is going to be extremely important, both in terms of how well and how objectives are set, what specifications are required, but also, of course, the efficiency of the procurement process, which is has always been a challenge for Canada. So I think as we look forward to the new defense strategy, or defense industrial strategy, we need to take a look at not only how Canada defines its defense requirements, but of course how the processes for procurement will actually operate, and that's going to be, I think it's reflected in the fact that the Minister for Defense Procurement, Stephen Fuhr, is a Secretary of State, not reporting to the Department of National Defense, but to Public Services and Procurement Canada, whose minister is Joel Lightbound. Says a lot about the process that we can expect here. And I think that also speaks to the importance of how we look at dual use technologies, which I'll speak to in a second. As I said, Canada has set a goal of achieving 2% of GDP spending in defense in the short term, and then moving that up to 5% by 2035. And these are significant investments. There's significant opportunity for new technology, for new innovation, for manufacturing in the process here. The budget itself has allocated $6.6 billion over 5 years for R&D purposes, supply chain resiliency purposes, building up stockpiles of reserves here, and which will be in the short term very, very important to for companies to take a look at opportunities there. And recent announcement that the regional development agencies will lead the way in terms of being able to look at funding opportunities for companies that are already serving the defense sector, and also companies that have defense capabilities, may not be for serving the defense sector in Canada, but serving the defense requirements of other defense sectors as well. Here. So those announcements have already been made. I can tell you that how we get to 5% of GDP spending, it will not be announced in the short term. I think there are some very innovative ways of getting there, but that is going to be require the government to do quite a bit more development thinking about the types of, not only the types of technology that will be required by a modern military, which are very different from, I think, previous defense requirements, but of course the processes that need to be thought out well in getting there. We know that the objectives of the defense industry strategy are going to be, of course, increasing domestic capacity, making sure that we're developing sovereign supply chains, which may not necessarily mean that the entire supply chains are located here in Canada, but make sure that the supply of critical products for defense and for other security requirements can be, that the supply can be guaranteed for Canadian purposes here. There's a focus on dual use technology. There's a focus on upgrading skills. And there is also a focus on being able to deal with strategic allies that are not necessarily unpredictable here. That and of course this is a major response to both I think the demands of the U.S. that Canada step up its defense preparedness. But also, of course, over concerns around our dependence on the U.S. Itself. So all of that is at play in figuring out what the defense industrial strategy is going to be. I think some of the military requirements, the defense requirements, are pretty clear. Here on the air side, fighter jet acquisitions and procurement, reconnaissance aircraft. On the naval side, submarines. Shipbuilding, on the operational side, ammunition, here armaments, and some of the new requirements for modern military, particularly around drones, military applications in outer space, and military applications, security applications in the Arctic as well, which of course will require not only a focus on the operational requirements, the technical requirements, as well as the skills and management requirements of Arctic operations. And I think all of those really come down to not only a different way of procurement, but I think where we are facing today in Canadian defense requirements is a different way of manufacturing. If we're going to meet these requirements, we really need to scale up production of the technologies, of the solutions, of the systems that we require for active defense. And it's one thing to be able to say, well, we've got great technologies that can be repurposed for defense purpose or used for defense purposes. Here we have great dual use technologies. The key question will be, can we scale those up from a few thousand units to literally millions of units here? I think that's how we manage that is extremely important. It's not only from the point of view of meeting defense requirements, but I think extremely important from the point of view of offering opportunities for advanced manufacturing, for using technology not only for defense purposes and the construction of defense systems here, but for using advanced technologies in manufacturing operations that give them the flexibility to scale up rapidly as required. There are some, of course, some challenges here. One of them is around dual-use systems, and I know that Harpal and Stuart are going to be speaking about what dual-use actually means. But I can tell you, as companies are looking forward to taking advantage of the opportunities arising from defense industrial strategy, this is a long-term process. It's a complicated process, as both Harpal and Stuart will tell you. It's heavily regulated here. And when we're talking about dual use, I think it's very important that we start off by looking at defense applications of technologies or of new products or of products that are commercially viable today, rather than counting on defense procurement to make product commercially viable. I think we'll go a long way in being able to repurpose business lines and product lines that can already succeed in the market and repurpose those for defense purposes here. And I hope that is going to be the focus of the new defense industrial strategy. Of course, there are lots of other opportunities as well, international opportunities. Canada is a party of the European Agreement around defense procurement. We know that in Germany and Sweden, in the UK, there are defense companies that are very open, very interested in working with Canadian companies, and particularly with Canadian advanced technology companies, Canadian advanced manufacturing companies, to meet their defense requirements purposes as well. And so this is coming back to one of the major reasons for this webinar, which is to talk about the opportunities at Hannover Messe. Hannover Messe is the world's largest industrial technology show. Glad to have Harpal and his team here from Sarkamir, because they've been at Hannover Messe for a number of years and can tell you a little bit about their experience there. This year is the very first year that there will be a showcase on industrial defense technologies. I'm going to come to this in a minute, but I think there are some really great opportunities to leverage presence at Hannover Messe here to showcase Canadian technologies around manufacturing capabilities, advanced manufacturing capabilities for defense purposes. There, it's Hannover Messe was last year. Canada was the partner country. Over 1,000 people attended from Canada. Close to 250 exhibitors were there, and I can tell you the feedback, the reception from international companies, and particularly European companies, was fabulous, and the business opportunity that was driven through that, very, very significant. So I'm going to pass the webinar over to Frank to maybe, Frank, you can give us a bit of update with respect to our plans, NGen's plans for reappearance at Hannover Messe in April of 2026, from I think the 20th of April to the 24th.
Happy to do that. Hi, Nelson. Would you bring up go to the third slide there? Yeah, next slide. So welcome everybody. So as Jay mentioned, last year we were the partner country, so 2026 is a significant presence as well. We'll have 3 Canada pavilions. As you can see here, we have Hall 14, which the digitally technologies. It's our largest of the 3 halls. We have about 900 square meters there. And then we have the robotics manufacturing for defense hall and security, which is a lot of this discussion here today. And Hall 27 is the AI for manufacturing, and we also have automation. Our target goal is to bring 100 exhibitors with us. We're well on our way there. We have about over 125 expressions of interest, and as you can see there, these are just a small smattering of the key themes available. Next slide, please. So there you can see the halls and the location. That's the grounds of Hanover. For those of you who have not been there, this does not look big, but from that northern entrance top there to the far left at the bottom west at number 1, it's about a 30-minute walk. These were the World's Fair in 2000, and each one of those blocks you see in the different colors is like a couple of football fields wide. So it's a significantly large show. 3,500 to 4,000 exhibitors, 125 to 150,000 unique visitors. So great opportunity. And of course, these are, decision makers and people who really have an interest in advanced manufacturing. Next slide. And Jay, why don't you take it from here?
Okay, thanks, Frank. So for the very first time, Hannover Messe is going to showcase production technologies for defense. And maybe Nelson can go to the next slide, please. This is the idea here, is not to showcase defense technologies per se, but to showcase advanced manufacturing capabilities that can help scale up defense requirements. And as you see here, the idea is to how can you scale from a few thousand to millions of units per year through modular production lines, flexible systems, smart robotics, better logistics solutions, very, very specialized manufacturing. There is also going to be quite a focus on security, compliance, traceability, data security, export control compliance. Stuart's going to speak to some, why that is so important. But of course, looking at technologies that enable that as well. And then, of course, the use of digital technologies to underlie advanced manufacturing capabilities. Not only cloud, of course, but edge solutions for computing. And this is particularly important, as everybody knows, around industrial AI and the use of physical AI systems here, where the inference both to read data, which has to be done in real time, and to control equipment, both real-time issues require edge computing systems. And of course, the integration of systems, AI-supported quality assurance, AI-supported maintenance as well. So all of these are going to be highlighted in the defense production area at Hannover Messe. All of these technologies or all of these solutions are highlighted throughout the fair. In any case, what is going to be very important in the defense production area is focusing on how these technologies, advanced manufacturing technologies, can be purposed for defense production. Nelson, you can go to the next. And so there is quite a robust program that is being developed here. Hannover Messe itself has as part of any exhibitor attending the show, does a lot of work to be able to market and promote capabilities of exhibitors to other visiting companies or other exhibitors. They're going to be working very closely with some major European defense companies and German companies in particular to make sure that they are going to be at the fair in the defense production area. Frank mentioned where we will be. One thing that he didn't mention is that we intend to be right next one of the robotics and where we're hoping that we'll be able to showcase automation systems and robotics and technologies for defense purposes. That exhibition area from Canada is going to be right next door to this defense procurement area, the in industrial application for defense area in one of the pavilions at Hanover. So fantastic opportunity for Canadian companies to not only showcase their capabilities, you can do that anywhere at the fair, but to do it with all this traffic going through at the defense in the defense space here as well. So I think that covers the idea here behind the fair itself. And maybe Nelson, you can go to the next. Yes, here this is the overall view of our pavilion in the defense and security technologies area. We're really focusing on robotics applications here, but also advanced technologies for advanced manufacturing technologies that can be used for defense production, as I said before. Nelson, so as Frank was saying, we're actively recruiting exhibitors to participate at Hannover Messe 2026, April the 20th. I think April the 19th is the opening ceremony, which is a Sunday. April 20th. The fair runs from April 20th to April 24th. There, if you want to, we'll give you contact information at the end of the presentation here, but Frank, Alyssa, and our team are taking expressions of interest and following up with exhibitor registrations. Here, the price for an exhibit space is about $5,000. And Frank, I don't want to give false information here. A standard exhibit space is 2 by 2.
That's right. It's $5,000 for a standard booth. That's the lowest fee unless there's academia.
And what is the size of the booth area, Frank?
It's about 5 square meters, if I have to say. Okay. We don't give an exact, but the physical part is at least 2 meters by 2 meters. So we don't put people shoulder to shoulder, so plenty of space.
Right. And then for that $5,000, you not only get a booth space and exhibit space that's ready to go there, but you're also registered in Hannover Messe B2B, the directory that is used by everyone at the fair to identify who is there and what their capabilities are. You can always get a larger booth space for $1,000 per square meter in addition to that, but you also be part of a welcoming dinner, Canada reception, and of course we will connect you with the speaking program in the defense procurement area as well, and other speaking opportunities throughout the fair. So with that, I will pass you over to Harpal from Sarkamir Dynamics. Harpal and his team have been to Hanover with us, and we're really glad to have him join us today, speaking a little bit about not only his experience at Hanover, why it's so important for companies to consider exhibiting there, but also some of his experience with dual-use technologies, and I think, as you'll see, a very exciting technology here. So over to you, Harpal.
Great. Thank you, Jay. Thanks to NGen for inviting us. I don't see the slides yet, Frank. Who's running these? Yeah, so my plan is to kind of quickly walk through a couple of slides, not to bore you with it, but just to keep me on track. By way of background, as Jay already mentioned, I got 32 years in the Canadian Armed Forces, most of it in leadership and management roles in domestic and international operations. I'm also formally trained in military equipment testing, trials, evaluation, and fielding. In 2021, I left the Army and joined as CEO of Sarkamir Dynamics, which I co-founded with my wife, Nancy, and my son, Avatar. And most of our early investors, roughly a dozen of them, all ex-military, like Chris Lunny's on the line here with us as well. And they provide not just the funding support, but also the background expertise we need in various fields, from business development and so forth. The purpose here today is to kind of share with you just one example how we thought that we were a deep tech company working robotics, got pulled into this dual use opportunity that came up through various militaries, not just Canada. A slide, please. Yeah, so path into defense, as Jay alluded to, is complicated. In many cases, could be slow. We were in an incubator program since 2021 to 2024, and every time we brought up potential opportunities in defense or government contracts, we were told to get away from that. It's slow, it is painful, because the whole process is meant to be risk averse, and for good reasons, taxpayers' money, etc. And it's heavily regulated also for many good reasons. Next slide, please. Um, oops, I missed the slide. However, just go back one, thank you. Yeah, so this is where our dual use comes in. So up till now, traditionally, the system has been slow, risk averse, highly regulated, but with the recent inject of cash and priority being applied to not only expanding the Canadian Forces capabilities, but doing so with the impact on the local economy within Canada much as possible, I think what you'll see is some of these traditionally um, friction points being somehow relieved a bit. This is where what we see the dual use path into defense comes in for a lot of startups that are not involved with defense at this time. So if you have proven reliability with your technology, you know the supply chain that you could kind of walk people through the breadcrumbs as to where the components came from, and you already have a clear training and sustainment path. It makes it much easier for you to enter into the defense system or the defense track, if you will. Next slide, please. This is by way of background, my example, how we got pulled into it. If you're not familiar with Starkman Dynamics, we make high dexterity robotic hands. So right off the back, that's not intuitively military, says anything about military on it. What we're doing is we're trying to fill this automation gap between conventional end of arm tools and what the human hand traditionally does. We have trials ongoing since 2022, and greenhouses, service industry, machine tending, using tools for complex manipulation. Next slide, please. And our use case has been focused on industrial automation. In many cases, handling hazardous materials like clean rooms, biopharma, nuclear industry. And for that, we use a lot of teleoperation technology where a human operator controls a robot from a distance. Then we got the interest from military. Next slide. So this project, you see the little bimanual torso you see on the screen there, this was actually developed for hazardous material handling. It could be chemicals and chemical manufacturing. It could be a nuclear industry, nuclear decommissioning, where you got to handle contaminated material without putting a human at risk. But when we did the first demo a while back, we got a lot of interest from the military, not only Canadian, but other militaries as well. Next slide. And this kind of forced us to demonstrate this a product you see in the front in the screen there, which we partnered with a military EOD UXO expert company out of Ireland. It's called ICP New Tech. They've been making these EOD robots for almost 50 years, and they asked us to put that torso on their platform so we could get more use out of it for military applications. We're talking about unexploded ordnance. We're talking bomb removal, mitigation, mine clearance, and CBRN, which is basically like another military application where you got to deal with some sort of a chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear contaminated area or object that need to be handled. So we put that demo to work in September in London at DSCI, and that generated interest from 14 different militaries from across the world. So just go back to where I started the slide from, where we were just talking about high dexterity hands for advanced application for manufacturing and industry. We got sucked into this space where saying, hey, we could use this technology for other things in military space as well. So this is a good example, I would say, from my personal experience of technology we thought was heading towards robots and all the fancy stuff that Elon Musk and others are doing, and getting pulled into military circles. Next slide, please. So for recommendations of companies in this space who think of getting into some sort of a defense path, do not focus on how to sell to defense. You may find yourself fighting an uphill battle. Ask, where does your existing commercial technology, how does it solve a problem that defense has? So focus on your commercial technology, develop it, get it tested by some customer, whether it's industry or whatever the case might be. And then if there's dual use, start talking to the right people on how you could leverage that and bring it into the defense space. Next slide, please. As Jay alluded to, there's a lot of activity happening in defense space, a lot of money coming this way, a lot of it's a sense of urgency here to develop new technologies. Just most of it's just stemming from what's happening in Ukraine. Nobody thought drones would be a big game changer, but guess what? They are. Now, because they're game changers, now people are looking for new solutions similar to drones on how best to leverage and what we call in the military, introduce new force multipliers to help a small army like Canada to get more bang for buck, no pun intended there, going forward. So this is an inflection point, this rising Canadian and NATO commitments to defense spending. As Jay mentioned, there's a new defense industrial strategy and overall a genuine push to buy Canadian capability. Up till now, we were fairly comfortable buying from allied nations. But now the push is not only to put new capability out there, but buy Canadian as much as possible for several reasons. One of them is secure supply chains, and at the same time, IP or security for operational purposes. The last piece I'm gonna bring up here is opportunity alone doesn't guarantee success. So everything I mentioned, more money, more emphasis on buying Canadian, that's an opportunity. But us in the industry need to prepare for that opportunity. And how do we do it is we got to start talking the lingo, got to make sure that we meet all the requirements to be a potential supplier to this space, as well as making sure our product or technology is being validated by somebody other than defense. So it's easy to kind of transfer it over to the defense circle. Next slide, please. So what can we do as SMEs? Again, I'm just talking from our perspective. We are now focusing on manufacturing. We're focusing on scaling. We're focusing on partnerships, a partnership with companies that provide technology that we don't have in-house, such as sensor technology for robots, AI systems, machine vision, machine learning, AMR platforms, anything that we don't have in-house yet. We want to partner with other Canadian companies because easy solution is go to China. The problem with that is defense procurement is not going to let you in the door if you have Chinese components or Chinese partners. So keep that in mind as you go forward. Start looking at manufacturing scale and partnerships. And I would say treat defense as an extension of your commercial excellence. Focus on your commercial market, get that technology product validated there with an eye on how to get into defense. Next slide, please. And the only thing I would say is the technology, everything that defense is looking for based on what I've seen on papers and new strategies coming out, the tech is already out there, right? The robots, the drones, a company like us that are able to offer greater autonomy and teleoperated capabilities, we're out there. What we need to do now is find it. One way to do that, I remember defense guys, they'll put a statement of requirements together, they put a request for proposals together, but if they don't know you exist, they're not going to be able to target you. So one thing you could do is like webinars like this here, or going to Hannover Messe. I'm not being paid to say this, but going to Hannover Messe and maybe have a display there to showcase your technology. That's another way to raise awareness that you exist, that you have something that might be of use to the defense teams. Then after that, once you meet the right people, you can start the dialogue, start refining your technology and getting it ready for where we're going. That's all I have. I think that's it. So I could be reached through our website, not for a tech itself, but if you want more insight into how we play around this dual use technology, our personal background, most of my team is are a bunch of veterans as well. So if somebody needs just kind of bend somebody's ear about how your technology may or may not be useful for the defense sector, happy to share free advice. So keep in mind, it's free advice. It's nothing that's going to be binding toward the military or the procurement circle itself. Jay, Frank, over to you.
Hi. So next slide. Stuart, I guess.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Stuart Kramer, as Jay introduced me earlier, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the definitions of terms. The one thing I'll say, I think Harpal did a great job of giving an overview of the opportunity. When you want to look at the defense sector, you need to be very intentional about what you're doing. And the defense sector can be very, very persnickety. It has a lot of requirements, but there are a lot of ways to play. Dual use technology means something very, very specific in the context of defense goods. It's a technical classification under export control law. Canada is one of the signatories to the Wassenaar Arrangement, along with 41 other countries, that really ties out what we make and what we sell and whom we can sell it to. So there is an export control regime that's managed by Global Affairs Canada. Dual use is also used frequently in the context of potential markets available to an organization. And so a lot of times when you're having conversations about dual use, it's going to be important to understand that you're using the term in the same way the other person is hearing the term. So dual use adjacent, I think, is a really nice way to, or military adjacent is a really nice way to differentiate. You do want to be thoughtful about what dual use actually means. Next slide, Nelson. Controlled goods are also dual use, but controlled goods are much more tightly controlled. Dual use goods are restricted in terms of how they can be sold, to whom they can be sold. There are lots of other requirements around the production of dual use of controlled goods, including licensing. The other thing about controlled goods that you need to be careful about is you can be deemed to have exported a controlled good based on having a conversation with someone. So an export of a controlled good may not mean that you've sold it or shipped it to another country. It may mean that someone from a prescribed country has had a conversation where you've discussed something. The other thing to be aware of with controlled goods is that it's not only the components themselves, it can be the technology, it can be the core knowledge around them that can be controlled. And so when you look at defense production, you want to look at, first of all, dual use and formal dual use. You also then want to be very, very thoughtful about whether you're manufacturing controlled goods. And when you look at the technologies that you have to offer, you want to make sure that you understand where those technologies play, because you could get yourself in trouble inadvertently by not knowing how things are classified. Next slide, please. So dual use and controlled goods are not the same thing. They're controlled differently. Dual use goods are items with both civilian and military applications. There's a link in the slides to tell you where to find more definitions about that. Controlled goods are much, much more narrow subset. They're also defined under the Defense Production Act. And again, you can find details on that. But most dual use goods are not controlled goods. But many technologies have controlled aspects. And so you want to be thoughtful. Next slide. So just some distinctions. A legally dual use product isn't necessarily restricted from domestic commercial sale. In most cases, it won't be. The production of a legally dual use product doesn't mean you're a defense contractor. You may not need CGP registration. And so you're going to want to know exactly what it is you're selling, and you're going to want to know how it's constricted or restricted. And you're also going to want to know the costs associated with how you operate your organization, whether you want to be controlled good registered or not. Many commercial products with advanced technologies and capabilities are not legally dual use, even if they could be theoretically used in defense settings. So there is no automatic here. You really want to understand then what you're offering and how it plays. Because again, there's reporting requirements, there's control requirements, and other restrictions. The product can be eligible for defense procurement without being classified as legally dual use under export law. It's dual use. It's something you could actually sell to the Canadian military, but it may not trigger you to go into controlled goods registration. So again, know exactly what your space is. Be very intentional about it, because there's a lot of opportunity and some of it's low-hanging fruit. And so becoming a defense contractor or becoming a controlled goods certified organization is a journey. And you may want to undertake that journey, but it's a long-term decision, and it will govern how you operate your business on an ongoing basis. So it's something you want to think about. It's not necessary to do all of that to start to sell things to the Canadian military. You want to understand all of the opportunities. But if you're going to get into the defense market proper and you're going to consider controlled goods, you're going to need to look at the Canadian Controlled Goods Program, the CGP program. Next slide. The Controlled Goods Program is a registration process that allows you to sell those goods. And you'll see a lot of companies, when you'll see it on their website. So if you're working in that space, you're going to need to make sure that your suppliers are also CGP registered. There's a lot to getting CGP registered, but it's not necessarily difficult. It is something you need to be quite careful about. I mean, it requires assigning someone as a designated official and getting them certified and registered. It requires background checks on your employees. It requires ongoing controls on things in your organization. And so it really does have a footprint in your operation. Historically, they've guaranteed a 32-day turnaround on CGP applications. If you go to the website now, you'll see that they're no longer able to meet that. There's a lot of companies now looking at CGP. So if it's something you want to undertake, start earlier rather than later, and don't assume you can turn it around in a couple of months. It'll take you a while. Next slide. So we've gone through a lot of stuff at a high level. There's more to it. And what we've done is we put together a series of webinars to discuss this in more detail. And so January 15th will be our kickoff webinar, Defense 101, just to talk about the defense market and how to enter it, more detail on some of the things I've discussed. February 12th, compliance and readiness, more detail on controlled goods, ITAR and what ITAR is, dual use, and some of the other restrictions and requirements. March 12th, we're going to talk more about defense supply chains, cybersecurity as it applies to being a supplier, compliance and how to be more competitive in that space, and what are some of the requirements you're going to have to bring to market with you. And then on April 9th, we're going to do some work in preparing companies to go to Hannover Messe and be a part of the Defense Pavilion. So we're going to give you some background around market entry, around presenting yourself in that space, and do what we can to make sure that the companies that go with us to Germany are very well prepared and have an effective and successful Hannover Messe. You'll be seeing more information about the webinar series, and we'll be sending out information on signing up very soon. Jay, back to you.
Thanks very much, Stuart. As you see here, all the information you need is you can access through this QR code. We'll also make this presentation available for anyone who would like that. And it's probably a good time to open the floor for questions. Frank, I'll let you. I don't know if we have any questions from the floor or from the wires.
I don't see any. Nelson, do you see any?
Okay, great. Good. Well, we will look forward to seeing you in Hanover. Please join us. I think, as Harpal was saying, one of the best things you can do is make people aware of the capabilities that you have. And Hanover is a really, really amazing place to do that on an international stage, and particularly if you're looking at developing opportunities with the German or the European defense procurement systems there, as well as with the Canadian groups too. So hopefully see you there. Please register for a webinar on defense procurement generally, and as we've always said, Hanover is sort of the Olympics of advanced manufacturing, and in order to prepare well for the Olympics, we always do some training sessions to make sure that anybody who is participating gets the very best out of the show there. I think, as Harpal and Nancy can vouch, the one piece of information that you need is wear comfortable shoes, because it's a huge show. there, but it's also a very important show to meet with business leaders to make sure that there are the people who are walking the show are not just technologists or manufacturers. They are business leaders ready to do business. They're looking for innovation partners. They're looking for suppliers. They're looking for customers, of course. But it's as our colleagues at Hannover Messe explain, it's kind of like a shopping mall where people are actually doing business. It's in the tradition of German fairs here, so extremely important. Nelson's showing us one question there: is NGen getting funding this year for defense? And let me just say, I hope we are. We're certainly busy in many areas around this, and I think it makes sense that if we can apply our processes, both in terms of promoting capabilities, but also putting good projects together that are integrating technologies into solutions or into systems. It really makes sense to do that. So we are speaking to both ISED and to the Department of Defense on an ongoing basis, and hopefully we'll be able to announce something in the new year. Great. So again, thank you everybody for joining, and thank you to our guests, to Harpal, Nancy, Chris, Stuart. You've done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.